Hey everyone, Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com, and I've got a big box, and it's from MSI, but also from EK. Do you know what it is yet? Let's do this.
Well, Andy, what are you watching?
It's not what you think.
Wow, it's so big!
Why, thank you. It's the new AOC AG493 UCX, 49 inches of pure performance and a refresh rate of 120 Hz. It's so fast. You can even do 2 at a time.
What?
You can connect 2 devices at a time and split the screen. With FreeSync Premium Pro, a 32:9 aspect ratio and a built-in KVM, you'll be finished in no time. Gaming, I mean. What did you think I mean? Get your mind out the gutter and click the link in the description to find out more. So, I got this box yesterday, and I'm going to start off saying it's actually very, very big. It's not as heavy as what I assumed it would be. I do know what it is, but I'm going to kind of leave you guys in a little bit of suspense, I guess. I always hate these things that they put on there that's kind of tries to keep the box together. I mean, it's a pretty solid box. It's not really going to go anywhere, but let's get it open and show you guys exactly what's inside. Now, for anyone who doesn't realise, MSI and EK have done a fair few collaborations over the years. That's mainly been sort of on the Intel side of things and the NVIDIA side of things. So what I'm talking about is they had a Z490 Carbon eTeknix board. They had a Z590 board as well. They've had other previous boards. They've done Seahawk graphics cards, which are basically MSI graphics cards with blocks on them as standard. So you haven't then got to go out, buy the graphics card, and then also go out and buy the water block itself. Now, I am going to say this because you're probably going to hear a little bit of background noise, but we have got the windows open. It is hot as hell right now. I don't know why. We're going through some freak kind of heat wave, and it's just, yeah, it's stupidly hot and stupidly humid. So, majority of this box is actually packaging material, but the thing that we're talking about is this. So this is what it is. This is the first EK MSI AMD board, basically. So they've, like I mentioned, they've done Intel before. They've done Z490. They've done Z590. I've probably got one. Here's one. So this is the Z490 one. So it's basically going to be the same. MPG Z590 Carbon eTeknix. This is the EK Quantum MPG X570S Carbon eTeknix. So as you know, or you may not even know, AMD chipset, in terms of the X570 chipset, it always had an active fan solution over the actual chipset. Whereas there are boards coming out now, kind of like a bit like a soft launch of manufacturers coming out, MSI being one of them, Gigabyte being another, coming out with boards that haven't got an active fan solution on there. So instead they're passive. They've just got, you know, a heatsink, and that is basically it. So this is branded as part of that, hence the S for silence. There are other ones as well. I believe there's like a P and a couple of other letters from the alphabet. But basically we know that the chipset on here is going to be, yeah, passively cooled. Then the other part of it is what MSI have actually done with EK. So with all these boards, I've unboxed, you know, a handful of these before, the EK MSI collaborations, and it's always kind of the same affair, which isn't a bad thing at all. You basically get everything you need from MSI and you get all the little extras and stuff from EK. So taking this all apart, I'm just going to go through kind of a quick unboxing of what sort of stuff you get with this, what it actually means, what it looks like, who it's for, that kind of stuff. If you want to see maybe some more content on this in terms of performance figures, maybe how far we're able to push something, we can look at doing that. But the problem is processors in this day and age in 2021 are so good at self-overclocking through, if you're looking at AMD Precision Boost Overdrive and things like that, that overclocking is kind of a dying art. And I've said this in many videos before, it's a little bit of a dying art, that is there any point in it anymore? So for me, a product like this, which way back when, I know I sound old now, but way back when it would have been all about the performance. Whereas now I'd say it's more about getting this hooked up to a custom loop, which is obviously what it's intended for, and it's going to be all about the aesthetics. So let's talk about the accessories anyway. So to start with, you get Wi-Fi antennas, so pretty standard stuff there. You get SATA cables, you get RGB headers, which convert, no, it's basically, okay, that's quite cool. So you basically have a female RGB header which goes into two male RGB headers. So you basically got a splitter cable, which is quite nice to see, because sometimes it's not always possible to get all the connectors that you want onto the motherboard. So we also have an addressable header, which goes into a proprietary connector, which is probably for the monoblock. I might be wrong. We get a temperature probe, a cable. It's a cable. What else do we get? We get the backplate. So this is obviously part of the EK side of things. We also get the thermal pads, which are going to be for the VRM side of things. Because anyone who doesn't know, the whole point of these boards is it's not just a CPU block, it's a monoblock. It covers the CPU. It also ends up covering the VRMs as well. We get, is that one of them? That is. They actually give you one of these little tools, which I tend to use for cleaning keyboards. Actually, I'm going to open it up so you can see. Basically what it is, I don't even know why this is here, but yeah, it's got like some little brushes on it, and it's MSI branded. Yeah, maybe it's like for, I don't know, cleaning the beard or something. But yeah, that's for use generally cleaning keyboards. So I'm not quite sure why that's here. You get some screwdrivers. That's quite cool. So you actually get some little MSI branded screwdrivers. One has got a flat head, one has got a Phillips on it. Yep. So yeah, they actually feel pretty solid, pretty nice, you know. I'm guessing that's for helping put the monoblock onto the actual board. We get a USB drive because obviously CDs, DVDs and all that are so kind of last century. So we do get a USB flash drive, which is going to include all the drivers and everything that you need as well. Standoffs, which are going to be for your M.2 drives. Without looking at the board, I'm going to guess it's like 3 M.2 slots on here, but we'll have a little look at that. All of the washers that you need for fitting the monoblock itself. So you need washers so that it's not putting too much tension on the board, because obviously if you end up putting too much tension onto the motherboard, you can end up cracking it. The washers will also help protect the PCB and the traces that are actually on the PCB. So you get that, and you get some thermal paste as well. Case badge sticker, some more M.2s. We get some battery stickers, because for some reason people want to now put stickers on their batteries. So you get that as well. Thank you for choosing MSI, and yeah, all the kind of usual quick install guides and stuff like that. So let's put all this to one side and talk about the board itself and kind of the monoblock and kind of what all that's about, and kind of what they've actually done to the board and what EK have done in collaboration with them. So I haven't looked into this. This is my first kind of opportunity looking at this board in all its glory and sort of, you know, being able to take it in. I haven't had a chance to kind of, you know, script anything like we normally would or anything like that. So this is my kind of first look, as it is for you guys. And this is a board. So I'm guessing, being a Carbon eTeknix board, this is basically going to be the same as a Gaming Pro Carbon, just the EK edition. So basically what we have is exactly the same board, apart from slightly different branding down here. Just take that off. Slightly different branding down the bottom, which says Carbon eTeknix. We'll take this one off as well, just make it look all nice and like an actual motherboard. There we go. So yeah, it's going to be exactly the same as Gaming Pro Carbon, I'm guessing, but the EK edition, which means nothing physically on the hardware side or the software side has really changed, apart from they've just stripped out these heat sinks, because that is where the monoblock's going to go. So looking at the board, obviously AMD, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So it's probably like a, I know for anyone in the comments who's going to say, yeah, but you can't just count the chokes. That's not how it works, Andy. But I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere similar to that. So it's going to be like 14 plus 2 or something like that. And it doesn't say. So maybe we'll just edit that in. But yeah, this is what we've got. 4 DIMM slots, a debug LED, there's plenty of connectors for fan headers, 8 plus 4-pin design on here as well. We've got a USB Type-C. In terms of storage, there are 8 SATA ports on here, so plenty of storage capabilities. In terms of PCI Express, we've got an X16 slot armored slot up here. I personally would have liked to have seen maybe an armored set of memory DIMM slots. It just would have kind of tied in a little bit nicer with the board, you know. It is a premium board. You have to remember that. And I've always found it quite weird that EK have always chosen, or MSI have allowed them to choose, I don't know how it works, but it's always been a bit of a weird one that they've always gone for the Gaming Pro Carbon, or the Carbon board, instead of like a Godlike. I would really, really like to see a Godlike EKX. I just think that would be amazing. You know, it'd be balls to the walls, fully kitted out, fully tricked out. But yeah, I would have liked to have maybe seen the armor on here just to give it that little bit of extra flair. but we have got 2x16 slots, both armored, and then we've got the 2x1 slots as well. There is M.2 just here, and I'm guessing there's going to be like maybe one here and then definitely one down here as well. Other than that, I mean, there's no, you know, standout features. It's kind of typical of what you'd expect for this kind of board. In terms of the rear I/O, I mean, you've got quite a lot going on really. So we have got BIOS, flashback BIOS button. We have got the clear CMOS button. We've got the dedicated USB for the flash BIOS. We have got a PS2 mouse keyboard combo port. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's, you know, 2021. What's going on? Why have we got this sort of feature? But again, if you go back to what I was saying, when it comes to water cooling and trying to find that, you know, kind of performance goal that you're really aiming for, people do prefer having something like that because it takes USB out of the equation, which is obviously drawing power. It's not a huge amount of power, but it's power nonetheless. So that's why you're going to have that. That's why you always see kind of pro overclockers who are doing sub-zero temperatures with like the most ghetto old school keyboard you've ever seen in your life. Other than that, we've got HDMI. So if you are using this with an APU, I don't know why you would be. Troubleshooting, I guess, would be the only reason. You have a ton of USBs, including Gen 2, so super speed 10 gigabit ones, 10 gigabit per second. We've also got plenty of other USBs, Wi-Fi, Type-C, 2.5G Ethernet, and then your typical kind of audio stuff. So that's kind of the board. As I mentioned, you have got the backplate, you have got the thermal pads, you've got everything that you need to put the loop, the monoblock on there, and this is the actual monoblock itself. So if we get this out, this is what it looks like. Anyone who's had an MSI, an EK monoblock before will kind of know exactly what's going on here, what it's basically all about. They have, in recent years, kind of included this flow meter so you can actually see the blades going around on the impeller, so you know that your coolant is running, especially if it's like a clear coolant or something that hasn't got, you know, the kind of vibrancy to it that you can't physically see in your loop. So this is actually really handy to have. You've got your inlet and your outlet ports, and that is pretty much it. So once your monoblock's on, this is kind of me just holding it just so you can kind of get the sense of what's going on. But this is basically what it's going to look like. And yeah, we'll get some shots, maybe overlaid some B-roll and stuff, just so you can kind of see what the RGB effects are like. But it's your typical kind of RGB. It has got, if I take this back off, it has got your typical kind of, you know, addressable RGB header, so that's going to plug straight into the motherboard, and you're going to be able to control it using the MSI software. So nothing really out of the ordinary. The thing that is out of the ordinary is the fact that this is AMD. It is the first one that they've done, and there is obviously a reason behind that. You know, the way that the market's been going, and, you know I'm going to get the fanboys in the comments, but AMD is stealing the market, and Intel, no, they're fighting back, and they're going to come back with Alder Lake. The market is huge. When you're talking about the market as a whole, Intel have that market. You go into any government building, any school, any hospital, anything like that, it's always going to be Intel. In the DIY segment, the enthusiast segment, which is what we're talking about right now, that is completely different. The reason that is completely different is it is a much, much smaller market. And I know there's people on here who belong in like Facebook groups and things like that who are talking about, but on this group, it's got like 50,000 members and stuff like that. That's great. 50,000 people is a drop in the ocean when it comes to a big company like AMD, Intel, MSI, you know, EK, all that kind of stuff. That's crazy, you know. So you have to think EK and MSI have listened to kind of what's going on in the enthusiast DIY market, the PC gaming market, and this is what they've kind of come up with. Give the people what they want. So the other thing that you get included, kind of the last thing that I'm going to talk about, are the EK accessories, which really, it says EK loop accessories. It's a pump tester. I've got like 3 of these now. They're really, really handy to have. When you are building up a loop and you want to test, instead of putting the coolant in and, where's it leaking, and having a look for all that kind of stuff, just put this on there. Make sure, you know, the gauge doesn't go down dramatically. It will go down a little bit. I mean, if you were to leave it for like a day, it will go down a little bit. Of course it will. You know, tubing and fittings and stuff like that, certain materials are permeable. They will obviously let, you know, coolant evaporate out of them and things like that. That kind of stuff will just happen. Fittings, you know, even though you could tighten them with the strength of Thor, air is still going to get out. But as long as it's not like that, if it's going down like a tiny amount within a day, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there really, because to test this, obviously it takes time. I've got to build up a loop. I've got to put it onto a test bench, all that kind of good stuff. But motherboards are always a tricky one to test because how do you test a motherboard? Okay, we run some games on it. Well, that's testing the graphics card. We're just going to sit here. Okay, well, you run, Prime 95 and see what the temperatures are. That's great, but there's so many variables to it. I mean, right now it's, like I mentioned, really hot in this room. We have no air conditioning in this building, so it's going to make a huge difference to if I was testing it now or testing it in a week's time. What would you guys like to see? Let me know in the comments section below what you'd like to see, and yeah, maybe we'll look at doing it. But I wanted to give you a quick overview on this board because, it's an interesting time where companies are listening to the consumer more and more. And I like the fact that we finally have an offering that gives the people what they want. It's AMD, it's MSI, it's EK. What's not to love? Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know exactly what to do, and I'll see you in the next one. See how that goes.